my father called me on Monday night on February 10th, and it was the snow moon, which is also known as the hunger moon in Native American. So Casey passed away on January 10th, and that was the wolf moon, full moon. So one full moon later on the snow moon, my father called me, which was rare because he only, he didn't call very much in the last maybe 6 months or so or something like that. But he had been reinforced over and over again from Kate as to the events that happened when he died and when he was resurrected. I kept calling him Lazarus. And what happened, and the sidebar to that story is Lorraine and I were on speakerphone in San Francisco going, you are not going to check out of the hospital. You are going to stay in there and have the tests and let them. And he's like telling Ian, who's holding the phone, get it away from me. They're bossy. Get it away. They're bossy. But anyway, he did call me on February 10th, and he said, Casey died a month ago. She died on January 10th, and it's February 10th. And I said, yeah, and when you died on Saturday, that was one full moon later. And we were talking about just the timing of things. And I said, well, do you know what day it is today? What other thing happened today? And he said, no. I said, it's your mother's birthday. So we talked about that for a minute. But he did tell the story of his death 3 times. And what I can say is that he wanted my husband Bob to get him a turntable. He had tripped over the cord and the thing came crashing down. So he made a date to talk with Bob the next day. They had that conversation. It was the last conversation he had with anyone that we know of. And so he died thinking about getting a new turntable. He died thinking about playing Wagner. The impeachment crap was finally over with. He was so obsessed with that. I'm looking at all these whiskey bottles yesterday into the trash. I was like, that must have been the Corey Lowenbasky hearing. He was obsessed with this political theater.
Well, he was obsessed with Watergate, too.
Oh, yeah. When Richard Nixon resigned in 1974, you guys remember the Black Cat firecrackers? And they would be all braided together like that?
Karen, I found some in the cupboard, and I was going to bring them today. Because he was the fireworks king of fireworks. He could build.
Okay, so not only are we atheists, or not only are we from Marin County, not only do the men think my sisters are Dutch because they wore clodhoppers, not only do they think that my brothers are gay because their hair bounced when they played basketball. Here we are in 1974, and he lights a string of fireworks when Richard Nixon resigned, just celebrating. And I could pretty much tell you that everybody else in Camp Verde was not happy when Richard Nixon resigned, especially when they heard firecrackers over at the crazy Nelson Budeke house. But he really felt a profound sense of loss when Casey passed. And she was the type of person, I describe her as the sun. And we all know that the sun is our little nuclear fusion ball of heat, and it has this gravitational pull that keeps all our planets in a line and orbiting, and that was Casey. Her kids orbited around her, my dad orbited around her,
Rachel, caregivers.
so many people. She had this force, and when that passed, it was like his mooring had been cut or whatever.
Well, Ivo called it, when I said all the orbit of Casey passing, Ivo said it created a black hole and there was a vacuum.
And so when I talked to him, I had talked to him the week before because we wanted to have a system. We wanted to have like one of us will call him every day to make sure he's okay. And he goes, well, let me make a little altercation on that plan. I think I should be the one calling because I don't want to be bothered by phone calls every day.
I'll call, let you know.
So then I said, well, we could put a Nest camera up, Dad. And we had told that to Casey one time when and she was still living alone. And I said, well, put it outside right above the door so we won't know what you're doing inside, but every time you walk out to get firewood or deal with the dogs, we'll see that you're okay. And she goes, yeah, and every time I walk by it, I'm going to go like that. He felt the same way. So they had this connection, and he you know, the conversation about we need to, you know, start monitoring you kind of just ended how bleak things felt at that time. They were really bleak and they were really sad. Then he had the death, the resurrection, and he had 3 days of...
But I have to go back. So back to us calling him. We picked up his cell phone the day he passed and looked at all the people that called him that day. Bart Blevins called him today to check on him. Patty Mancini called him that day. His niece in Seattle called him that day. Karen called him, I called him, Ivo called him, Ian called him. We all were trying to get a hold of Richard that day. He said, Eureka.
And they both died in their respective homes. They didn't live together. They hadn't lived together for a couple decades. But their union was tighter than a lot of marriages I've seen. And if she needed him, he was at her side. And if she didn't want him around, kick him out of her house and go back down to your house and my house, your kids, my kids. They had a lot of that going on. But now that they're both gone, it's like they're so much alike. I mean, we're cleaning houses. I was cleaning the day Casey died, and I painted a door. And Alice said, well, Mom would have painted a door, but she would have never cleaned house, Karen. And that's how Richard was too. So I'm just coming back to the fact that she was his anchor in so many ways, and I think he was struggling with his health for so long that she was the reason that he stayed alive as long as he did. And I'm happy that he had those 3 days of looking forward. He wasn't thinking about death. He was thinking about his new turntable. He was happy. He was really happy, and he was happy to know that his 3 stepkids who are here in town were just showering him with love and letting him know that we're not going to leave you alone. We want to help you. So just because Casey had passed, it wasn't like, oh. It was the complete opposite. It was just this everybody coming around him and surrounding him with love. So for all of you who were part of that, Lorraine and I appreciate you all. I love you.
That's